sant yàlla.
looy xaar utal Wave nga scan nga fay te nag doo ci yokku dara.
Jar Oil, the company, have filling stations across the country, and our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. Jar Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market.
In the Gambia, we all move to different paces. Time is money, convenience is power, and now both are in your hands. No more long lines, no more late payments, no more missed chances, not anymore. Because now the Gambia has its own super app, Zap. One app, one tap, endless convenience. Send money instantly, pay your bills in seconds, shop without borders, pay your rides, order your meal, buy your ticket, deposit and withdraw money for absolutely free. No extra charges, no hidden fees, only on Zap Super App. This is not just convenience. This is confidence. This is the future in your hands. And the best part, Zap is born right here. Built for us, designed for every Gambian home, every Gambian dream. So don't wait in the past. Step into the future. Download Zap today on App Store and Play Store and enjoy endless free services. Call us today on our toll-free number 1666 or on 260-0001. Zap, all in one, all for you. Tap in, zap in.
It's Tuesday, the 10th of February 2026, and you're with Coffee Time with Peter Gomez. Now, every Tuesday on the program, you'd expect Dr. Ismaila Cisse for his usual appearance on the show with updates from the government. Dr. Cisse is on holiday. He's thousands of miles, kilometers away from the Gambia. So he can't be on the show this morning. At least he can't be in the studio. But we've brought another doctor to replace him on the show, Dr. Habibatou Drammeh, and she is our minister charged with basic and secondary education affairs, and she's here to also give us updates regarding her ministry. Dr. Ture, it's good to see you back here. And I made the joke before we came on air that the conditions you find yourself in this morning in the studio are way different from the last time you visited us. Then we had an embarrassing, power situation where we sat the whole hour discussing in the dark, and unfortunately we weren't able to film it. But today you are being filmed. Welcome back to the program. Minister, despite your ministry receiving the largest share of the national budget, critics still argue that the sector is underfunded. Do you agree with that assessment?
Okay, we are happy. We are happy that this year we have close to 6 billion. It's 5.9 billion. So that's an impressive improvement compared to the budget allocations in the past years. Budget allocation to education is never enough anywhere in the world. But we are very happy that what we have this year is able to take us a long way. We hope we can get more, and that is the trajectory I believe this country has begun to set. If you look at our the expenditure on education from the general national budget, it's close to 18%, which is nearing to the global best practice of 20%. So that is quite impressive. So it's never enough, but we're happy.
Beyond government allocations, does the ministry get money from international partners, for instance?
Yes, sometimes from the World Bank, like we have now in the Resilience and Inclusive project, that's the RISE, which not only Ministry of Basic is a beneficiary, but MOHAS and several other ministries. We also have the Global Partnership for Education that occasionally come into our support in the areas that aligns with their work, yes.
I was talking to a presidential aspirant recently, and he insisted, after I pointed out, some improvements, in our education system, especially the provision of classroom spaces, that we still have children in some communities undergoing instruction in the open or at best under trees. If this is correct, why is that so?
I think if those things are happening, it's because the people love to have them happen that way. Generally, Peter, we have come a long way, and generally we have made education accessible across the country as far as Bulibana. So every corner of this country to some extent has an education facility, except if the parents insist that their child cannot walk, let's say for a kilometer or so to go to school. So then they can on their own decide to sit under the mango trees. I have seen people sit under the mango trees, not because there were no classrooms. In fact, the classrooms were there, beautifully made, but they enjoyed the fanfare perhaps, or the air in the environment. So I just want to be very clear here that any person who chooses to sit under the trees to have their classes in this country is a matter of choice, but the schools are available. I think I went to visit a community in Basse, Fas Bajon, and as far as it was from the main highway, I think close to 6 or 7 kilometers, there was still a school within that community. So what we are trying to do is to upgrade that school to up to senior secondary level, so that the children can have all their education there. But for the basic levels of the education, that's 1 to 6, the children have an opportunity. But as they grow up, sometimes it's difficult as the reforms is ongoing and development is gradual. So we begin to close the gaps where they exist. But to tell you the fact, schools are more accessible to people. Now people can remain in their communities and have access to all levels of education. Of course, with some little bit of efforts to travel short distances to access some of, especially senior secondary schools.
Critics say the Gambian education system lacks a clear philosophy rooted in our own values. How is the curriculum being adapted to reflect Gambian culture, history, and ethos while preparing students for global competitiveness?
Yes, we are doing a lot. I mean, life you learn every day, and you work to improve and also to contextualize what you do. And I agree that our education should be contextual. Our people, our children must be able to learn and enjoy their learning, not to learn the contexts or the jurisdictions of other societies. I agree, and this is why I mentioned the maize, because now we have realized that not every child finds it easy really to be taught in the English language as early as the grade 1s or even the nursery. So we have decided to change the narrative through that way. But of course, we have to test and see whether this works, and this is why all the initiatives in that area are pilot initiatives. And we have also reviewed the curricula, and it is now what we call the competence-based curricula. Not just to make it so theoretical, but theory, practice, and with some kind of attitude education, or education that will mold the young people to be better people, to have good characters as they go through the education. So we are going through a lot of reforms just to ensure that the child gets the best in terms of molding, in terms of general knowledge, as well as to be able to also use their hands if possible, so that they can have more opportunities in life as they transit to higher education levels.
I'm sure the Farmer Pharmacy, which is an association of young Gambian farmers, would be very happy to hear you say this, because we ran a story earlier on where their president was making the point that farming is a practical matter. But in the Gambia, it's 80% theory and only 20% practical. Hearing you say this, I think they will come to realize that the problem has been diagnosed at this early stage of our education, and something is meant to be done about it. What role should local languages therefore play in early education in our country?
I mean,
Just to bring us back to the maize, maybe,
yes,
because we
yes.
have to, rework the microphones and everything.
So basically, I mean, education is meant to help the student to understand, to conceptualize, especially complex ideas, and simplify them, and be able to also meaningfully utilize what they learn in practice. So the use of the local language is basically to help the child to understand at that early age. At that early age, for example, if you teach a child, this is a car, they can recite it. This is a car. But if they don't understand a car, if they don't know what a car is, I mean, it's difficult for such a child to be able to use it after that, later on, I want to say. So basically it's that. It's just to help them to understand. But if you tell a child, Nimu motolet, li motola, it's easy. If you examine them on it, it's easy. They can quickly answer. But if you should examine a child on a matter that they do not understand, they have to go and memorize. And that's why you see most of us in the schools memorize. Because if you don't do that, you wouldn't be able to answer any question. You wouldn't have any choice too. So basically, that is the mindset or the intent, just to allow the child at the very early ages to understand what is taught in school.
And it's best if they're taught in their own languages.
Yes.
So where are we on the issue of introducing local languages in our schools? Because I understand there was a time when Wolof was chosen for the pilot, and of course it created so much uproar. People even came on Coffee Time to criticize the decision and question why Wolof.
Yeah, I think that was a very myopic thinking or perception or perspective of some people. I think when I came into the ministry, the Wolof pilot was on, and I never came to my mind why Wolof. For me, my interest was, why did we have to use local language? And when it was explained to me, it's just to support the foundation of the child. I appreciate it. I appreciate it so much. So I wasn't paying a lot of attention on the language itself. So for me, it was an initiative that we ran and wanted to see whether it will have impact. It will support the child's learning generally. So I think the focus should be that we should try to not use tribe in some of the works that we do. And also at the time, the ministry was comfortable. I think the people who implemented it were comfortable with the Wolof, because the Wolof materials were readily available. Although I was told in some quarters that there were other language materials that were available, but if the people...
Mandinka, had its own, alphabet and everything long before Wolof came along.
If the people implementing are not comfortable in the use of that language, it would be very unwise, really, just because you want to satisfy a tribe. For me, I didn't see it that way. I just saw it as a reforms that the sector embarked on, and it was meant to find out whether we can use the local languages, in our foundational learning. So I think that for me is enough. I'm a Sarahule. I wish they had used the Sarahule. But for me, it never came to me. It never really occurred to me until I started seeing people's opinions about it. I said, wow. So you see the kind of the way people think. But for us at the ministry, we are not here to support. We are just trying to strengthen our education system. And of course, we are not an island. We have people who are experts in different areas, and we have to make use of their expertise in the areas they are good at. And this way, if we can use any language, even the minority, the most out of all the languages in terms of minority, we would have gone for it, just because we have an agenda, or we have reforms that we are pursuing, and we want to deliver on it.
So what's the situation with regard to that pilot, the introduction of Wolof to to our schools?
In fact, that was just for the maize. Now we have a much bigger pilot that is supported by the Learning Mastermind from Ghana, because they implemented a similar project in Ghana. Now we are using 7 languages, including Manjago, yes, Sarahule, and Serere, 7 languages basically. So this has been taught in several schools across the country, over 100 schools, of course, with a student population of over 600. So again, this is all geared towards strengthening the foundational learning. So in the next 3-4 years, we will assess this, and if it works, it will be across the country in all public schools. The language of instructions will going forward be the local languages. That is if it works, but we have a very strong impression, and I think it will work, because from the MACE assessment we have seen students really do well, even in exams. It's no longer an issue in math and the language itself. The students are very eloquent, and they are very literate in those areas.
And how does it work with these 7 languages? Because are certain schools selected for certain languages, or are all 7 languages being taught in the schools chosen for the pilot? Because that would would add more weight to an already heavy curriculum.
Yeah, it depends on the community. If it's a Fula community, so preferably Fula will be the main language of instruction. But if it's a Fula community with, for example, Wolof settlers, then we will run 2 language programs, the Fula and maybe Wolof. So the Wolof will be the second option for students who really are Wolof speakers. Yes.
And how were teachers prepared for this? Because it's not every teacher who can, for instance, read Wolof and understand Mandinka and translate Sarahule.
That's right. We have training. We have teacher training programs that are going to really support the teachers. And the Gambia, how do you call it now, University of Education, is going to be a very strong partner of MoBSE in this regard. So work on that has begun. Has begun at the moment. What we do with the maize and the project on the with the Learning Mastermind is to train our own teachers. But like I said, the University of Education consequently will be highly involved in the supporting and training of teachers in these different languages.
And while we are on the subject of teachers, we had a group who recently went on strike because they were not paid, study fees and what have you. Why has it suddenly, become fashionable for teachers either to go on strike, or the union threatened to go on strike when, when I was going to school, for instance, teachers going on strike was unheard of. In fact, decades after I exited the education system, teachers were still not striking. But now it's somehow become fashionable.
Yeah, because we are in a we are in a very good democracy, and sometimes it's unfortunate. It appears a lot of us still need to be educated on democracy. So the teachers, yes, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago went on. They call it a strike. I don't. I won't call it that way, because strikes follow processes and procedures. So it was just a call of some people, some teachers, amongst themselves to sit and not go to school. We had engaged. Actually, it was not due to study fees. Maybe that could be a different strike that I am not aware of, because I also was told that there was a private school teachers who decided to sit back, but our regional education office engaged them. I think they are back. But the ones that sat within MoBSE were actually asking for what they call double shift allowances. for the final quarter of 2025. That's October, November, December. What's happening in the Region 2 East in the past, because of the vulnerability of the region, very close to Casamance. So there were some risks in those regions, and teachers in the past were not very interested in going or staying in those regions because of the proximity and the potential for rebels here and there. So certain allowances were paid to them. They were not giving the right names. They were called double shift allowances. So ordinarily, those teachers are not on 2 shifts, but they receive what they call double shift allowance. So that discrepancy was realized during the final quarter of 2025. So at some point, it was stopped. So when it was stopped, we didn't know because we are not paying these salaries and we are not receiving them. But when the teachers knew, around January, our attention was brought to this. So we engaged all the stakeholders, tried to clarify that it was really an allowance that was due to the teachers. Maybe the nomenclature was what was
So
wrong.
when you say it was stopped and you didn't know, stopped by who?
The PMO, normally salaries are paid at
okay.
the level of the PMO. So they too didn't understand why would a teacher who is on a single shift be receiving double shift. So before we were engaged, maybe accountants stopgap measures. So they would want to close the leakages before they even get others involved. So when that happened, we sat as people, all the stakeholders sat, and it was addressed, including the GTU. So we all sat, and it was all explained. It was reinstated actually in January. So the arrears of October, November, December were also under processing. But when this was communicated by the GTU to its members, some of the teachers felt it must be paid in January. Okay, so we tried to see if we could have it paid in January, but that was not possible in January. So because of that, they decided to go on strike. So I went to meet them. I told them that was wrong, completely wrong, because strike actions within MoBSE, it is GTU, Gambia Teachers Union, that has that mandate to announce a strike. Even before going on strike, they would have gone through a whole lot of process of negotiation and given some kind of announcement of the strike date, and all of that. But
So all that information was not given in this case?
No, all these things didn't even happen. The thing is, not even the GT, because the GT was involved in the negotiation, and it became very clear to all of us in that meeting that yes, they should get the allowances, and it was reinstated. So I told them, even the effort to reinstate it in January should have given you people enough, assurance that yes, we appreciate the fact that these allowances still should come to you. But the books of 2025 were closed, so we had to go through another process of negotiation and processing to get the arrears paid to them. Unfortunately, they embarked on the sit-down strike, which was unfortunate. It was completely wrong. So I made this very clear to the teachers, and I'm happy that the next day they all went back to work.
Well done to you also for leaving the comfort of your offices here to go and meet them. That must have given them added motivation.
Yes, all the 7 schools I visited and I engaged. I had a very good engagement. Some of them were actually misled, so hopefully everyone will learn from
But has the problem been regularized with PMO if it's not to be called double shift?
Yes.
Has it been given an appropriate name where anybody who comes in will see that, this is an allowance that should be given, and they give the necessary approval? That's
right. Yeah, that's what we settled on. So it will be called a sort of a risk allowance.
Okay.
And
or hazard allowance.
They have a new name for it anyways.
Okay.
Just to allow it to go on, even if there is a different person in that place who handles the payment of such.
But do you worry that repeated strikes, undermine confidence in the education system and disrupt children's learning?
It does, and I think people have to be ready for negotiation. Yeah, strikes happen, but like I said, they will happen only if we have exhausted all, possibilities of negotiation. So I don't expect any other strike to happen, because we are all working very hard in MoBSE. The teachers, we appreciate the services that they are rendering. They're actually gallant teachers, and we thank them for the work that they're doing. And this sector is not also relenting. As you can see, we are going through a lot of reforms. Yesterday, I was in Serekunda. We launched 48 new classrooms with support from the MRC Holland Foundation. And that is just Serekunda. We have opened several other schools. I recall the Sikunda, very far away, and it was a community school previously, but now they have very standard classrooms that when you really see, you can tell if you should compare us with the sub-region schools at the basic and secondary level, you realize that we are not doing bad at all. So I want every stakeholder of the education system to realize that a lot of work has been done to strengthen what we have, and we need the support of everyone. If anyone is disgruntled or not happy, let them come and talk to us. We have open door policy, and I think through talking we will solve the problems that we are having as a sector.
Absolutely.